BIP of Bizarre Interest Productions, and yeah, another upload. I know I'm burning myself out with this for a video that won't get that much views given how late it'll be, but it's only been a few people talking about this, but yeah. After so many years of women in a Kamen Rider franchise going from suited punching bags who died thanks to heart-wrenching circumstances, supportive women barely having any agency in the plot, suited women transforming once or a few times to die, being sidelined or underexplored by their own writers, and seasons of slow but meaningful progress, Toei's own official movie account confirmed Rinne Kudoh, the hero of Kamen Rider Gotchard, played by Reiyo Matsumoto, would be transforming into the movie featuring Gotchard and Geet's crossover into Kamen Rider Majade, the first ever female number 2, aka secondary rider. Burn the beautiful and splendid figure of Kamen Rider Majade into your eyes at the theater. There's been a lot of speculation on what some people, especially those in Japan, thought about the announcement, especially since Gotchard's popularity, polarization, and divisive reputation in the West would lead bad faith actors and critics to try and discredit the discourse and treatment. So, what did some Japanese viewers and fans think? Here's a few examples. Oh, among the Reiyo Riders, this design is definitely in a pretty cool category. It's cooler than the protagonist, isn't it, lol? Seeing the first female number 2 rider appear in Gotchard and Geet's is pretty hype. I totally thought Valverod would take the number 2 rider slot, so this is totally unexpected. On top of Gotchard and Geet's, will there be action in the main TV series? Can't wait to see how the story unfolds from here. Another one, super cool. It has that Unicorn Gundam vibe. Another one, is Rinne-chan gonna transform? I'm so happy. I'm looking forward to going watching it tomorrow. Another one, when I saw it, I was mesmerized by its beautiful and cool appearance. Rejoice, it's the birth of Kamen Rider Majade. Another one, could it be the first time riders have fought as a couple? They're not a couple yet. Yeah, that's right, Hotaro and Rinne aren't yet, after all. So, yeah, outside of people questioning why they spoiled this debut, many people were excited on both sides of the hemisphere. And yeah, it was a pretty unexpected reaction at the time because Kamen Rider secondary riders would show up in crossovers and sometimes be basically their first introduction as cameos before being introduced into the main show. However, this is like the first official time where transforming into the secondary and playing a part in that storyline in a big way was actually part of the plan and played a major role in the narrative. There was a lot of division around the time about whether or not this was true or if the writers cared more about Valverod compared to her, and claiming that he was a true secondary because unfortunately we live in a closed-minded society, only for behind-the-scenes interviews and confirmations with the people behind the show that was not the case at all. The producer has come out to say that from the production side, they wanted her to be the secondary writer of the work and wanted to focus on that, but because of production development constraints, they had to deal with managing the series composition since they also had to deal with Spanner becoming a tertiary writer with his toys coming soon. So they had to push his debut back, and with the meetings for the winter movie started, they figured why not have her first appearance be there and try to develop the movie with her debut in mind. And it's clear that the producer wanted her to be the secondary writer from the beginning. Another interview with the producer talks about how, in his mind, she was meant to be the protagonist given how she was basically raised by the big good in her father and all the elite training and education, but her power could only get her so far in fights, and she decided she wanted to be a proper hero and Kamen Rider. And even the producer states that he didn't just want to make her like a typical heroine in the franchise, like the non-transforming rider girl that would help the hero as a supporting friend, but not to have much introspection. He wanted to explore Rinne's kindness, frustration, and anxiousness about not being able to transform or being able to help out into finding her gotcha, that resolve to fight, so she could become the Kamen Rider she always wanted to be, which explains all her actions in the first quarter leading up to the movie. Her and Hotaro's opposing viewpoints, not stopping each other from working well together in fights and opening up to each other about their issues, insecurities, and loved ones. Her love for her father versus how the lack of knowledge and belief he turned against the society. Her slowly going closer to her friends while her archenemy was threatening to take away everyone she loves. The crisis of fate over not being able to do much leading into her declaration of protection with Hotaro and setting up to herself against Atropos, all culminating in the movie where she jumps into the nightmare to find a way to save all Japan, her father handing her the driver, and her using her powers to save everyone. And in the show's third arc to final arcs, we got to see her blind faith in the organization and their rules' effects on her morality, leading her to decide her own rules and convictions for what's right, even saving her arch nemesis with her new transformation, fighting her teacher with the others to sway him back onto the side of good. Then, after fighting to stop the big bad and getting some reader time, she manages to confront her own romantic feelings and insecurities towards her growing relationship with Hotaru, and show that she's not as reserved and distrusting as she used to be at the start of the series. Even having her own questions of fate when facing off against the gods, yet refusing to let the people who hunted her friends and father down win any longer, doing everything to fight them. Even in the endgame arc, she's still using her powers to save people, and she ends up taking on her own personal final boss, who's all about fate and expectations. And how fitting that the girl and her arch enemy that was made from her, that were always trying to get on the same page, being linked to die or suffer, and yet the girl never gave up on trying to save and care for Atropos when no one else did. And with that bond, not only were they able to fuse, they were able to defy the fate that said God prescribed onto her. Now, I've gone on the record to say I don't think she was perfectly handled, and there are some valid criticisms that could have expanded on her character more, such as showing how isolated she was being treated by others in the association, besides Minato, Sabe, and Renge, and exploring how she wasn't getting as close to them earlier on before Hotaru ended up helping her connect with them more. While the story never even talked about her, I'd like to know if her mom had died. I wanted the movie to flesh out her desire to be a Kamen Rider earlier on, while having her catch Sun and Unicorn much earlier, or during the X-Rex arc, or towards the start of the film. I wish her powers could have been used more in working with Platinum, her needing an episode with Kaguya and the Legend 3-parter, wish her getting Fire Mars or Mercury Poseidon would have helped with the lack of forms that she got, having her fight but spare Atropos in a 1v1 eventually, since we know that doesn't want to kill her, so at least one physical fight between them would help. Or her needing a 3-minute heart-to-heart with her father after saving him from the Dark Kings, but that doesn't mean that it's like the character. It was a huge risk to take an introverted female heroine with agency in a franchise, playing it very safe with more optimistic heroines, and not trying to do much with their lead women, but with her, they explored her humanity and themes of how she used her loyalty to cope with depression until it finally cracked, and how she ended up building a support system through her friends and bonds, so she comes out the story a better person than when she started. We see how she got hobbies, embracing chemis more, and I think it's important, especially for young boys and girls, to see that all types of women grow, change, and tackle issues, who all have different personality and roads of character development, especially since action series can benefit from having both fights and non-fights deliver character building. And yes, the reputation has been mixed, but it's been very disappointing to see that the community also used Gavv and Sachika to drive this narrative that suited women aren't needed or are a problem in Rider, despite Sachika herself being underused and denied more agency in the story to help and get focus on her own, especially since we've seen Rinne and Sachika get along in Girls Remix, and we need all types of women represented as characters while being able to have their own storylines, which is a shame because with these two, one gets gassed for being supportive without actually having her own time to shine after a certain point, whereas she gets hated for having the evolution of her storyline being undermined by bad faith critics who never wanted to engage with her themes and narrative arc in the first place. That being said, while Gavv was airing and at the start of Zets, Rinne got to be the lead star of 2 Girls Remix specials, especially since Gavv's women were also being criticized for being underdeveloped. In the second, we saw her connect to the kidnapped women, being used as pawns for some experiments, and someone like Marika, who at least had intent with her desire to save Kaito, now being used as a puppet given what happened with Atropos, resolving to save Nayuta and swaying the girl into becoming a hero by joining them as well. And even though she was the least experienced of the team, she worked with her older allies to fight alongside them and show the same heart and conviction towards protecting the innocents. Then you have the Halloween party, and while yes, she does lose to Koyomi, Rinne ultimately won trying to protect all of her allies, and she wasn't focused on just killing the bad guy for the sake of it. But after knowing that they were just taking women and stripping them of their identity, she took the power she used for the first time to save all Japan into one Kemi-enhanced punch in order to save the soul of someone who wanted to do good in Koyomi, allowing the only genuine member on the villain side that was a good person to regain her humanity and encourage Rinne to not give up on hope even if things seem bleak before Koyomi's clone gives out. The big takeaway is that 2 years later, we are seeing that while her character is divisive, Rinne was a step forward in the right direction, More women are into tokusatsu more than ever, leading into the Girls Remix specials with her popularity greenlighting her role in the second, third, and fourth, and a reminder that even heroes are people who struggle but can find their own resolve and be a helping hand to others. No matter who and what she is, I am glad Rinne is the first female secondary rider. Type Majade is great if you made it to the end of this video. Thanks for watching, and BIP of Art and Just Productions, signing off.